podcast by two guys who know nothing about comedy nor game design. I'm Trevor Scott, and with me, as always, on his deck is Ben Slinger.
Yes, hello.
Deck sessions continue.
Deck sessions.
We'll see how long we can keep the deck sessions going for. It's going to start getting chilly
It's
soon.
going to start getting chilly, but
maybe we just rug up.
Then we'll go to the lounge sessions.
Have some, soft jazz in the background.
Yeah, I've got a fireplace in there as well. In the winter, we'll stoke up the fire and do the romantic fireplace sessions of the podcast.
Get up, come on, get down with the sickness.
Well, I thought we'd do something a little bit different tonight.
Yes.
Than the usual click pitch. So we've both sort of decided that this week we felt like doing a jam.
Yeah. Get our heads into development again.
Yeah, get back into it.
But we're going to be doing our own thing.
Yeah,
because
each works separately, just because that's fun sometimes. And we've just come at it. We've each come at it independently, and often it can, when you're only working with yourself, it cuts down on communication. But what I thought we'd do is each sort of pitch our ideas a little bit. Now, the theme's not out yet, so we're just going based on the fact that it is a one-bit jam, which means you can only use two colours.
Yep.
I don't know if it's at any point or in the whole game. I did see some previous ones where they changed which two colours they were using. But
basically, from what I understand, it is on the screen at any one time there can only be two colours.
Yeah. So that obviously provides some interesting challenges, and I think Trevor and I are coming at it from quite different directions, which is great. And so, I thought we'd each sort of talk about our ideas and help each other pitch and help each other come up with stuff we might do.
So let's go both at the same time. I'll start talking about my idea. You start talking about your idea, and then
we'll come somewhere in the middle. No.
Why don't you go first, Ben?
Sure. So I've always liked games with like little people running around. And I've always wanted to work with them, that sort of thing. So, I mean,
they do like to be called little people now. So,
not in that way. Like Lemmings, sim type games, that sort of thing.
Okay. Yep.
So the idea I've sort of had is some sort of 2D side-on sort of thing where you're launching like massive groups of fighters or warriors at different enemies.
Okay.
That's sort of all I've got, but I like the idea of sort of this like explosion of little people coming out of somewhere, flying through the air in random directions to like come down on some big creature or something and all attack it at once, or a group of creatures.
So are you thinking of having different types of...
Possibly. So that's the sort of thing I've been
people that you can launch?
Yeah, maybe. So what I haven't figured out is I feel like there needs to be some sort of economy there probably for... I
mean, because I really want to see is I want to see a load of archers being fired out and they're taking shots from the air.
Well, that could be cool. Yeah, I definitely...
And then they just get squished when they hit the ground.
Yes. So these are some of the things that I want to think about is... Okay, because a lot of this is just coming from the general vibe of it as well. Because I like the idea of like flying enemies and launching people at them, and they just like grab onto it and kind of pull them down, and they're attacking it as it comes down.
Yep.
This is it. They're almost all these like kamikaze warriors.
Okay. What I like is at your massive cannon, whatever it is, you can actually have like just a massive tub, and it's of goo, and that's what that's what the clones are coming out of. Basically, you're depending on how topped up
could be cool.
Your goo is and all that sort of stuff.
It kind of extrudes them out, or they just like have a little nozzle that just kind of goes.
Well, I'm thinking kind of like if you've seen like there's the other type of 3D printer where they come up out of
and it's
fully formed already, and that could actually be kind of cool. That they come up out of the goo and then they all just sort of head off.
Obviously, getting this across in 2 colors is challenging, but I'm sort of going for that less is more sort of thing where I'm going to work on animation a lot with it, but these people are going to be like maybe 8 pixels tall or something, right? 10 pixels tall. I don't know. I haven't quite worked out the size.
I mean, that's pretty small in a 1920 by 1080
Well, maybe I won't go that big, but I do want them to be little because I want it to be effective when there's a lot of them being fired out at once. So yeah, I do like that idea of maybe you're sort of printing them out at a particular rate, and that you can potentially alter, like, oh, okay, now switch it to archers or something or whatever it is.
Just queuing up,
and they're like lining up to like load into this cannon, and then when you're ready, you fire out how many are in there, and you kind of have to wait potentially.
But it's also like you're queuing up what you're printing.
Yes,
in your clones. So it's like, oh, I said that I wanted 30 archers. They're not going to go well against this thing that's actually closest. I've got to fire these ones out further.
This is the thing. Yes, so
quickly, so I can get the
Yeah, so these are the sort of tensions I was thinking of. And look, it's not unprecedented. There are a lot of games where it's like, oh, queuing up units to fight other units that are coming towards you. I think what will differentiate this is the sort of the launching aspect. It's funny. The strategy will be, how many do I launch at once? At what angle?
What's funnier than a cannon?
A slingshot?
A catapult.
A catapult? Yeah, a catapult's good. Yeah.
Because then you've got that whole...
Yeah, pulling it back. Everyone loads in.
Funk.
Yep. Yeah, if I can animate that well.
Tick, 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 tick.
For sure. That's cool.
Change the angle which you're firing off to.
I will think about that, actually. That's very funny.
The catapult or trebuchet.
I feel like a catapult is maybe a bit easier to sort of think about when you're planning like your angle.
Yeah.
Because then I'm thinking, do you like firing them something like the archers, right? If you fire them up at a higher angle, maybe they're in the air for longer, they get to take more shots, but then they're definitely going to die when they hit the ground. Versus if you throw them at a lower angle,
they may come away with it.
They might lose some hit points or whatever, but then they get some time on the ground to be attacking. But they're not as effective from the ground.
Maybe later on, you get that sort of Legend of Zelda, slow down time as they're in the air, firing arrows, but they've got only a certain amount of time in the air, and then once it's all gone, like they just plummet.
Yeah. Yes.
So you see them just bang, bang,
or that's when you give them parachutes. They're just flying.
They get the glider thing from Zelda again.
Yeah.
But if they've used all their stamina up, then they've got no stamina left, and then they're going to fall out.
So yeah, I mean, I need to decide. There's obviously only so much you can get done in a week.
It's 10 days. It's a 10-day jam.
Oh, it's a 10-day jam? Oh, even better. Okay.
That starts, Saturday morning?
Yeah. For us, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'll probably start on it tomorrow because it's fine. It's not
this came out after the...
Yeah. Nobody's going to care. Yeah, I think there's some cool stuff there. I do think there'll be a challenge in doing graphically. I think I'm going to have to make decent use of outlines as well, and sort of draw order. And then
8 pixels tall, you're not going to get much for.
Well, not so much of an outline, but even if it had a thick outline, or even during certain motions, perhaps like. If it got an outline right, at the point of attack or something, could be interesting because it's sort of highlighting it from the background. It's hard to think of what's the background and what's the foreground when there's only 2 colors. But what I was thinking about is sort of a darker sort of ground level that gradients out, and then the sky is the lighter color, but again, sort of gradienting up.
Yeah.
And then the characters,
good old dithering.
Characters and with dithering. And then the characters and the enemies will be the darker color.
Yeah.
But essentially using outlines to highlight them against other other characters and other enemies and that sort of thing. So maybe when they overlap, they might actually have an outline that will only show up when they're overlapping, right?
Yeah.
That sort of thing. So, I'll play around with that. But yeah, I think I like the idea of there being some really big creatures that, like, 10 of your guys are all on the back of it once, just stabbing away at, and this thing sort of just is like
health ticking down
every 5 seconds or whatever. You got to fire more at it, but yeah, it's health ticking down or it's slowing down or whatever. So, and then having some different types of enemies in there as well.
I can just imagine, blood drops, exploding and it sort of coming out.
Yeah.
In that lighter color.
Yeah, that's it.
Hitting the ground.
Something that's going to show. The thing that's going to show up in the background. This is the thing, and I think again, because there will be so many overlaps of the actual sort of entities, the warriors and the enemies and stuff. If I'm doing drops in the lighter color, they're going to show up at certain points when they are over enemies. If you don't see them when they're like on their own, whatever, like it's not as big a deal. Or I alternate, but have some light drops and some dark drops, so that if they're on a light background, you see some of them, and if they're on a dark background, you see other other bits, like for different things. So, look, I think it'll be fun to mess with.
Yeah, there's some really good stuff in there.
Yeah.
I am quite liking that. There's a number of things, because we haven't actually talked about our ideas that much. You know a little bit more about mine than what I knew about yours.
Kind of, yeah. But
I can definitely see it working. I'm looking forward to seeing it sort of go, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to be getting each other.
We'll be giving each other updates,
and I might need some help. I've never actually done the itch side of things before, like putting it onto itch, so I might need a bit of hand. What am I doing for exporting this and all this sort of stuff?
Yeah.
I would love to get some sort of GitHub Actions or something like that going, so it just automatically builds to it.
That would be cool. We had that at the Global Game Jam.
So good.
Which was awesome.
Which, speaking about that, we've got that coming up as well.
The showcase. So we'll show off our game.
We didn't do what we said that we were going to do, which is get new T-shirts and cards done up.
Oh yeah,
they're not going to make it in time. So
lazy tax.
Yep,
that's okay.
But yeah, I really like that.
I think it'll be fun. I think if I can make it, juice it up enough, have some good, animations,
but it's also not where my mind is at right now. I'm still very much in a real narrative sort of thing.
Yeah.
I've been checking out a lot of narrative games lately.
Yeah.
Played a bit of Dispatch,
Dispatch was great.
Went back and played a little bit of Gone Home as well.
Okay.
That was good fun. So my idea is sort of like a walking sim.
Yep.
I was thinking about Obra Dinn because I've been watching a few things about that and thinking that really looked good with all the dithering. It's only 2 colours and that could work really, really well. I've got all the Cinti assets there, so I'm not too worried about building something up. I started working on a first person
interaction controller thing, wasn't it?
Controller thing.
Yeah.
It's got some basic stuff there already. It's not fully ready to go yet, but you can move around. I put the dither thing on it, and it actually didn't look too bad.
Yeah, it did look good.
Came out quite interesting. I want to see how it actually goes with, light. And I started thinking, ooh, what if you've got a flashlight?
Yep.
And so basically the center of the screen is where the flashlight's coming out.
Yep.
And so therefore, as you're turning, you only have sort of your vision within that center, and it's all
everything else complete
all going to nothing on the outside.
Yeah,
because ideally, technically, everything is pitch black. In there, and you're going through this house, and then as you're walking around through this house, you're picking up notes and other things like that. Effectively, you're going there to try and find something in the house. I haven't quite decided yet on any other story other than that. I'm just like, I think some sort of horror.
Yeah, well, I mean,
thing.
Obviously,
sound
Gone
design
Home is a really interesting example there, because Gone Home, for most of it, felt like a horror game.
Yes,
and I mean, it was somewhat revolutionary at the time, because it was kind of coined the term walking simulator. And this type of narrative with a lot of environmental storytelling, although it did have voiceover and stuff at certain points, I think, right? Yeah. So having that sort of thing could be good. I was thinking that since you're doing 3D with the dithering, that like light and dark should definitely play a part in that, because with two colors, dark is dark. Like, this is, there's no room for subtlety there.
It is just it's shadow.
Yeah. And I mean, you can decide like what the gradients of dithering are for various amounts of light.
And I noticed
tweak that in
very, very early on that it appears that with this luminance one that I've got there at the moment, it is just, if it's light, it's light. If it's dark, it's dark. And
if it's lit at all,
it's because the light was coming straight down and all this sort of stuff, or on a slight angle. Like the shadow melded into the box, and I'm like, this is actually kind of cool that you can't even see where the shadow begins and where the box ends. And so playing with that could be quite good. I watched a Matt Parker dithering thing the other day as well, and he's talking about the different methods of doing dithering. So I'm like, okay, I can play with these shaders. I've got a simple shader there, but I can always play around with some of these other mathematics.
And I think play around with your thresholds, play around, do different types of dithering shaders. And then, I think having the flashlight is really interesting, because you've sort of got full control over what they're seeing at any point, right? If they're looking in a direction, that's all they can see.
Yes.
And you could do some interesting horror stuff with that.
Especially with noises coming from behind and that sort of stuff.
Yeah, sound design could definitely be a big part of it.
And
then.
That's what I've been thinking about the whole time. It's like, sound design is where this is winning out, because you can't see the thing over there in the corner. So when the light's not on it, you don't. You don't know. And all I really need to do is a nice big cone sort of area. And just, if it's not overlapping, then you can set that sound off and all this sort of stuff like this.
I mean, there are very easy ways as well to tell whether, I think, like whether something's being hit by a specific light and that sort of thing too. I think you could do that sort of thing.
So I had the thought of, like, if you had something like a rocking horse in a room, and you're looking through this kid's room, and then you turn to the side and you hear it start moving, and you turn back and it's just rocking and all this sort of stuff. And it's like, I don't really want to go into anything is really going to actually happen.
Well, that's where I was sort of going. That's where I was going with the Gone Home thing. Is maybe you follow their lead and kind of bring it around to, maybe there was a ghost here, but it's not malicious.
It's a kid ghost or something like that. It's just it's playing with you, and it's like, I did have the idea of it set within our cyberpunky sort of thing.
But not everything.
You're in a flesh house and you get digested at the end. Like, I did think about that. You end up in the basement and it's like squelchy as you're walking down there, and you go to turn around and like
the house's mouth.
Well, the
teeth.
The door is like sealed in with this goo or something like that, as the acid starts to rise.
I guess
think
it's
about something like
how
that.
you would get that across then.
But it did actually remind me of a horror film I saw a little while ago that was set in a church in which underneath, it turns out, was like literally the bowels of hell, and when people went down into them. If you can hear that in the background, that's a helicopter going by, being very, very, very loud tonight. But yeah, I don't know whether I need to do anything like that. I like the idea of ghosts. I like the idea of it's with a flashlight, but it's pitch black, and it's basically. I'm thinking, you're a ghost hunter or something like that, and you come in and you're reading diary.
Yeah, I guess do you go to that level, or do you go to have them expect it even less? Like, are you a neighbor checking on it or something, or are you, are you a kid who has been dared to go into the the empty house or the abandoned house? Or...
That is kind of cool as well, having it that, you open up the door and it's like, you close the door and it's like, well, this is it. I've been dared to stay in here all night until morning. I've just got to suck it up. While I'm here, I might as well explore.
Yeah, and particularly if they're very skeptical, could be interesting. If your character's skeptical, so they're not expecting to find any ghosts. Anything that they do hear or see initially, they rationalise.
Yeah,
both to themselves and thus to the player. So, if you do the right things, it's like you don't start with the stuff that's obviously supernatural or whatever. But if you could do that well enough and have it sort of build up over time, where it's like, oh, this is becoming more and more undeniable that something's happening here.
I had the idea of this is like an old mansion sort of thing. You're able to pull something and it opens up a secret passage.
Oh, yeah.
Thing, and then you go between rooms, and the occasional room that you're in is locked out and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, well, and again, Gone Home had similar sorts of things where once you went a particular way, you could. You had to do certain things, I think, to unlock the attic or whatever it was, or to make your way through certain sections of the house. And then that works well for your storytelling cadence, right? Then that they've seen X before they've seen Y if you've had to gate them.
There's something about hearing noises and things not being the way that you left it.
Yeah, that can be a very subtle, easy way to
ramp up the tension. I'm thinking, no, it doesn't even need to be a single, a massive mansion with lots of levels, but it can just be a single story house that happens to have an attic thing that you can pull down the ladder sort of thing. But you're searching the house and you can't find a pole anywhere. And just as you find the pole, you go back out to do it and it's already
it's open, yeah.
And it's no, I want to get out of here. And the door's locked. And it's it's that sort of thing of you hear a noise in another room, you hear... Just ramp up that tension, that tension. Maybe you're looking for one particular artifact, and that's how you prove that you actually went into the house and you stayed there.
Well, if you've trained the player up on certain noises and to get a good enough layout of the house too, you could have the fucking light go off at one point, and they have to find their way. You'd need some other lights as landmarks or something. Maybe then, you could maybe make it that the player can turn on lamps or something as they go through.
I do like that.
So then you do, it's not giving them much more. It just means that if they're not looking directly at that spot, you've got that little circle of light or something. But that can kind of then lead them back. They know where they've been then. But then,
their flashlight is off, but you look down the hallway and you see
You see just like pools of light kind of thing.
Shadow.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's a good moment. If you can get that, looking good.
There's just something about that just makes you go, oh, I don't want to go in that room. I don't want to go in that room. Nothing's ever going to be there.
No, you don't. You never show them the monster. Or whatever it is.
And is it just your eyes are playing tricks on you? Like, that's the sort of thing that I just want people to sort of be interested in the mystery enough to.
Yeah. And look, if you can give some exposition with some notes or some environmental storytelling, like, that's cool. And then, like, if it just ends and the door opens and his friends are there, even if you don't see them, if it's just, you hear it or something, and they're like, what was it like, or whatever, and he's like, nothing happened, or what, whatever you do, you leave it ambiguous.
Do you actually want it, like, are you interacting, like, talking to people through a fire watch or something like
that? Maybe.
Or is it better off that you're talking to, like, your AI or something like that?
I mean, you could have moments. I feel like maybe it's better, like, once you get to a certain room or something, you can talk to one of your friends out the window or something, So you've got that
little jump scare.
Yeah, well, that's it. And
then you go, Gah!
Yeah. And then you can have a little bit of a dialogue tree, and again, you've sort of got a bit of exposition. You get a bit more of an idea of your character.
I do like the idea of this being, like, at kid height as well.
Right. Interesting, yeah.
There's something about that of...
How young, though?
Teenager. So...
Yeah.
So
just having it be that little bit...
1.5 meters high.
Yeah.
It's just that... So the rooms are just a little bit bigger than what you expect.
Yeah.
There's something about that makes it feel more like, what is actually going on here. You do feel like a kid. You don't feel like an adult in this thing because things are just a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
But it's because you're just that little bit shorter.
Yeah, you can play with the scale. That'd be fun.
And then potentially I can play with the camera, like POV, FOV a little bit and bring it in a little bit because I don't know. It really depends on
what feels good there.
I want to be able to look at things. I want to be able to pick things. Do you want to be able to pick things up, or is it more interact with things and then that just
depends what you have time for?
Yeah, I think I'll stick with interact first.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got letters and stuff, you can just throw up UI on the screen. Like, it can look like a letter, but it can just be a sprite with text on it. Like, that's fine.
And then just the words down the side, like they quite often do in...
if you want to write or something. Yeah.
I was actually thinking with, like, inventory. It's like, you got a key. You can now open this door.
Yeah.
And it's like, you get close to it, and it's like the key comes up as you get close into the door. Like, if you've got the key, so you're not having to worry about...
You don't have to manage your inventory in any way. It's just, do you have a thing? Like, have you got the key for this door? Whether it's a literal key or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, I think it's given me some good ideas as to what I want to do with this. But yeah, that kind of horror, but there's never any danger. It's more just that tension.
Yeah, I think
I want to play with
focus
that
on. Obviously, you don't want to spend too much time before you get into the meat of it, but focus on getting some of those key scenes feeling like they're figuring out how's the lighting? Is the lighting going to work here? What's your look and feel for it?
How does it look with those lamps on down the hallway without a flashlight?
Yeah, with and without, and see how that goes, and then then you can start actually fleshing out the rooms.
What happens if they haven't turned any on?
Yeah, that's on them. Or it's even creepier. You turn them all on when that scene happens, whatever it is.
Yeah. There is something about going through a house that you don't know, seeing, an old creepy bath, like torn wallpaper, all this sort of stuff on the walls. Like, I have to see how textures come through.
I was going to say, I'm not sure how the texturing will work with the dithering shader. But
I'm hoping well, but again, I've got a very, very basic room set up at the moment, so I haven't actually tried with...
Yeah, try a few things. It might even depend on, particularly if it's sort of based on luminance. I wonder if, normal maps will play a part there in getting it to look like a texture is, like a thing is textured.
And they don't use that many normal maps in...
No, you'd have to...
Cities,
You'd have to do some of your own stuff or find some different textures.
Yeah.
But I mean, honestly, look, even if it's just even if it's untextured, it's going to work fine in that sort of situation. It's more than about the meshes that are in the space, because that is going to show up with shadow.
If they're textured meshes, then you're going to see ambient occlusion and that sort of stuff.
You'll get a sense of the form of the mesh, right? Because of the lighting on it, even if it's harsh to 1-bit lighting, 2-color lighting.
I've got the pixels set very, very small at the moment. I set them much bigger before, and I was like, oh, that really just doesn't look... It always looks better at that really, really tiny level, so that you can get that more detail.
I think there's a mix, because I saw some people, again, in the previous 1-bit jams, where they'd clearly done a similar... It was a 3D game, and they've got a shader on it, and they were using fairly small pixels, and it didn't quite give me that same nice style that Obra Dinn did. And obviously, I mean, Obra Dinn put in a hell of a lot of work on making things work with overlap. Like, it's not just a flat shader over everything. It's in the texturing, and it's in the the way that it renders. But that, I think that my feeling of that is that the pixels are slightly larger in that than the sort of single pixels that you almost feel like if you make them really small. But obviously, maybe that just wouldn't work with when it's just a shader that you're working with. So
and look, I definitely want to have some sort of narrative happening all the way through, that you can look at things and you get hints throughout. Have some sort of MacGuffin that you're in there trying to get. That your character explains at the start.
Yeah, and I think you probably want to plan out your sort of key moments, 4 or 5 key moments probably.
Yeah.
If you've only got 10 days to make it, you definitely want to scope it well enough. And work out where, what the sort of narrative is that leads through them. And then that'll help you figure out, what do I need to build?
It'll be good because it's this is the first time that I'm I did some writing on the one.
Yeah.
And I was really happy with the writing that I did for the Global Game Jam. Because again, this is something that you'd take it on for quite a bit.
For other games, yeah.
And so now me taking it on myself feels a bit different. It's going to be daunting to take some of it on. But the good thing is I know that I can just get a grey box of the house done pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I know that I can get that done.
Well, and you can probably get a grey box of the writing done pretty quickly in that. And that's what I usually do, is just sort of dump it out of your head. Generally the way people talk and the things you want to do. Doesn't mean it's going to be good writing as such, but you'll have it there to build it around, and you can always edit it and improve it, iterate on it. So that's what I've found anyway.
Yeah. And then, I do like one of the things that I loved out of the Global Game Jam stuff was the achievements.
Yeah.
So just even having a couple of those achievements pop up throughout, knowing that, you experienced this, you did something that, I expected someone to do, but it's not on the normal path sort of thing. Or, you collected all the notes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, whereas with mine, I'm really going to have to make sure I don't get bogged down in, like, details too much with, like, animation and different things. Like, obviously that is a big part. That's a big part of it. But I'm not a accomplished animator. I can do some stuff, and obviously the limitations will help me a lot here. The fact that I've only got literally 2 colors to work with and making them pretty small means that I need to pare it down to very simple animation. But I want it to be expressive enough,
Yeah. I'm thinking of playing with just a few animations here and there just to...
Yeah.
The sound design is going to be the key.
Sound design, and then just the layout, like your set dressing and stuff.
The good thing is I know what set dressing is going to be like. I don't have to think about lighting too much because it's all
pretty much through the
By going with a flashlight, it means that you've got that darkness, and then what happens when, as you're walking, and a light all of a sudden, flashes from the side?
Yeah,
you turn and there's nothing there.
If you've got them so used to just having the flashlight, then any other light is gonna, be something you can play with then.
And it's going to be like TV's now on and it's blasting light out into the room.
That'd be cool. Be interesting to see how the shadowing and stuff works too from your different perspectives.
Light sources and that sort of stuff. That's. I was also thinking the game Scanner Sombra.
Oh yeah.
In that is pitch black. And there was a moment in that game. I was loving it up until this point. And I'm playing.
You're playing in VR?
Just going around.
Of course. That was,
Yeah, it was VR, and you're painting the ceiling with all these sort of things. And then I, painted a person. I'm like, oh, that's a bit creepy. And I walked on, and I turned around, and I painted again, and it's right there. And I'm like, okay, no, this is coming off. And I took the headset off and never went back to play the game. It was so creepy just in there anyway, because it's pitch black.
Yeah.
To paint that and then that be, I love that idea of painting it like that, but that was too...
Yeah, for those who haven't played, you're basically using a LiDAR kind of sensor to paint dots onto the environment, and that's literally all you can see is the dots that you've painted in these, patterns that then build up, but
there was more than one color.
Yeah,
but the beauty was that once it painted onto a surface, those dots stayed in that exact position. So that as you moved around, you could see where that dot was in 3D space. Yeah, and it was really really well done. Anyway, I think that's all about all the time that we actually have for tonight.
Gone on enough. So that was a bit of a fun diversion. We like to sometimes actually talk about games, game design, and real things.
There was some funny stuff in there. There was some good talk, and I'm really looking forward to this jam. I think
it'll be good.
I'm
hoping tomorrow. It's good. I'm glad it's 10 days because that means I'll get essentially 2 full days because I don't work Fridays, and it's my game dev day. So
I'm planning on using some of the long weekend to play because my wife is going up to Albury Wodonga. Mm-hmm. My son's going to be at home with me, but
he can help.
I'll be able to spend some time on the game, and he can sort of help me out a little bit with putting things in place.
Yeah, it'll be good.
It's really cool.
All right. Well, that's it for this week. If you want to find our previous episodes online, go to bitstormcast.com or anywhere else you find podcasts. And you can also go to bitstorm.games for our game development projects.
And if you like the song that we play at the start and end of each episode, that song is called Mount Defiance off of the album Containment Failure by the band Kurodust. You can find that for free at kurodust.bandcamp.com. Anyway.
So thank you again for joining us this week on Bitstorm. I'm Ben Slinger.
I'm Trevor Scott.
And we're jamming.